Hello, my name is Brad Heller, and welcome to the Heller Approach Acting Studios YouTube channel. Today, we're going to actually talk about something fun. We're going to be talking a little bit about emotion. I know that I have done some of my videos on emotion, but I have been getting some questions about them, so I thought to start, we would go ahead and deal with that. Here's a question right here. So the question, actually this is sort of a two-parter because this person asked two questions. One question, this is from Nikita Joshi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Number one, her first question is, please tell me how much important is medication for acting? And then her second question is, what about emotion of joy? If I say joy, and also what type of breathing exercise will I need to do to look more joyful while playing a character who is joyful? I mean to say that anxiety and joy can't have same breathing exercises. Well, Nikita, to answer your question, first and foremost, let's kind of work backwards here. With regards to emotion and the difference between joy and anxiety, and you said that they would not have the same breathing exercises. Actually, it is the same breathing exercise for both. What you're trying to pull on is the name of the emotion. That's what's going to trigger the different feelings inside of you. For example, if I just say the word joy, I say it again, joy, I feel like a little bit of a tingle, sort of that makes me smile, and I feel it kind of start like in my face or maybe in my chest, and it kind of pops right up. If I say the word anxiety, I feel a little tingle in my stomach. So the idea behind this technique is first we say the name of the emotion, because for as long as you've been living, the name of an emotion actually can trigger something in you. This is one of the differences between this technique and other techniques out there that ask you to sort of delve into personal stuff in order to act. Thinking of something that happened to you when you were 5, in order, what made me anxious when I was 5? And you think about that and suddenly you're anxious as yourself, and it can kind of send you into this sort of tailspin. This is sort of accepting the fact that just saying the name of an emotion is going to make you feel something. And we couple that with what actually physiologically happens in our body when we're filled with a lot of emotion. And it's always the same. Our heart rate goes up. Sometimes our chest even goes up and down. If we're really, really emotional, we're going to get a little bit lightheaded. Sometimes we're going to get a little glaze in our eyes. In fact, the feeling, again, is that we get a little bit lightheaded, similar to when we go and exercise. And this is whatever emotion you're going to be feeling, whether it's joy or anxiety or disbelief. The physiological experience actually is going to be the same. So I hope that kind of explains that a little bit for you. Just remember, it's the word, the name of the emotion, that's going to shift the feeling in you, not the breathing. You're going to always be doing the breathing in order to sort of charge yourself up. Okay, and then the second question here is, what kind of role does medication play in acting? And I'm not quite sure I'm following you there, but I would say, it depends on, what you're talking about. Like, for example, sometimes people will say, take a calming Valium before they act. Similar to me, when I think about stories that I've heard of people drinking before they act or smoking pot. I mean, for me, I believe that when you do this, you're actually kind of dulling your capacity to feel emotion. So if possible, if you're dealing with anxiety or fear and you're taking some kind of medication to calm your nerves, my suggestion is to sort of learn more about fear and anxiety and how people cope with it, because there is a way to deal with anxiety that may not require you to take any kind of medication beforehand. It's similar to people who have a fear of flying. I've talked about this before with people who have bad stage fright. They kind of expose themselves to the fears that they are dealing with, but you do it in sort of a slow step-by-step process. Like if I had a fear of flying, maybe first I would look at a picture of airplanes, and I stick with this feeling for a while until the anxiety goes down. And then I will graduate up to maybe sitting on an airplane, and then maybe taking a flight from Los Angeles to California with somebody that I know on the plane to make me feel more safe. And then eventually I work my way to, hey, I'm going to take a flight, from Los Angeles to New York by myself. We don't want to do that at the beginning of the process, otherwise you'll freak out. And this is called a habituation process, and this is really a form of behavior therapy. If you're dealing with anxiety and fear, what I might recommend is exploring that as an option instead of taking some kind of substance to calm your nerves. Again, I feel that if you do that, you're dulling your capacity to feel, the true emotion that you need to feel in the scene. So I hope that answers the question for you. Today, moving on to what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be, as I said, we're talking about emotion. I'm going to be showing you another scene. And this is a scene from a big budget movie, because I like independent, smaller budget movies and sort of the artistic movies, but I also like big budget movies when they are acted well. So today we're going to be watching a little bit of the movie The Last Jedi. And the scene in particular we're going to be watching is with Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver. Speaking of Adam Driver, by the way, who plays Han Solo's son, he was just nominated for a number of awards for his work in a recent movie called Black Klansman. So the reason I bring that up is that a lot of times people talk about these big budget movies and how they're just all about special effects or morphing or computer graphics. And the good ones, though, the good big budget movies, the ones that have any kind of lasting impact at least, have really good acting in it too. So let's go ahead and watch the scene, and I'll be giving a little bit of a commentary as we watch. This is the scene where Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver are dealing with Adam Driver's mentor, and he's going to turn the tables on him and cut him in half. So let's watch a little bit of the scene, and I'll talk to you a little bit about as we watch. Right there, by the way, when you see the mentor, I don't remember his name, but that guy, the older big man there, or creature, very powerful. If you noticed, when he moved his finger to express his power rather than doing too much, that is one of the principles we talk about at the school, which is powerful people make you come to them. They don't come to you and lean forward, for example. He just sits there and he moves his finger, and you know how powerful he is. Daisy Ridley here, if you notice in her eyes, she's very freaked out. She's very terrified. Right here is a great moment. Like, I buy that. Like, I believe her fear there. There are some really bad movies out there where they do something like that and you don't buy it. Here, Adam Driver, if you look at him, you can feel like the confusion in him and the rage.
My worthy apprentice, son of darkness, heir apparent.
Look at his eyes.
Lord Vader. Where there was conflict, I now sense resolve.
And look at this guy's eyes.
Where there was weakness,
both of them have such an intensity about them.
your training and fulfill your
Look at that guy's eyes. And look at Adam Driver and just feel his emotion here, his intensity. Don Richardson, who taught me acting, used to say acting is 80% emotion. This is a really good example of that. Do you believe those two are freaked out?
You think you can turn him? Pathetic child.
I buy that too. Even in these big
I
budget
cannot
movies, these
be
characters are very
betrayed.
vulnerable and open.
I cannot be beaten. I see his mind. I see his every intent. Yes. I see him turning the lightsaber to strike true. And now, foolish child, he ignites it and kills his true enemy.
That's a great ending to the scene. I really enjoy that. So, anyway, not quite as much as I thought was in the scene. Adam Driver, he is really a great actor, but Daisy Ridley and even that creature did a pretty good job. But my point here is, again, when you're playing your characters, you've absolutely, a lot of people, what they do is they learn the technique, but they tend to cut corners because, let's just admit it, if you've seen my videos, the breathing exercise that I talk about is not particularly that fun to do. I mean, it's a little bit exhausting because you have to inhale and exhale and say your lines, and you get a little exhausted and sweaty. But just, remember that if acting is 80% emotion and you do everything but that, the best you could be is 20%. So if you're going to cut corners, don't cut corners on the breathing exercise. And I know it's painful. I even sometimes dread doing it. But it reminds me a little bit of something, because Don Richardson, the guy who wrote Acting Without Agony, as you know, he was my mentor and taught me this breathing exercise. I used to drive him to and from class, and I remember one day we were talking about acting and how painful it can be, or I don't remember, it was so many years ago, but I remember him talking because he used to paint and he used to do sculpting, and he used to also sort of sculpt granite or rock. He had these chisel and he would hammer it away, and he used to talk about, when I'm hammering away at the rock, it's painful. I get blisters, my hands bleed. But what do I do it for? I do it for when the piece is finished and people look at it and say, oh my gosh, look at that. And he said, that's what I do it for. But all that chiseling is painful. So I want you to think a little bit about that. When you're doing the breathing, it's in all art. All art, you have that step-by-step process. Think about what dancers go through, and they have to sort of move their body and contort it and work those muscles. It's exhausting. Think about musicians, practicing the guitar, and they get blisters on their fingers, and they're going over and over and over and over again on scales, so that eventually they can just do it and don't have to worry about it anymore. I'll leave you with one last thing. If you haven't seen this movie, I strongly suggest it. I'll talk about it one time when we're doing our series here. It's a movie called Shine. It's about a piano player and like a young prodigy. And there's this great scene where he's being mentored by John Gielgud. And John Gielgud is talking to him and sort of teaching him about piano. And there's this great moment where John Gielgud talks about, as he's teaching his young prodigy these notes, he says, it's all about heart. It's all about heart. You have to learn the notes before you forget them. But it's all about connecting to the audience with your heart. And the reality is, we can't really fully connect to the audience until we go through the painful process of learning the notes so much that we're just not even thinking about the notes anymore, and it just happens. And that way you really feel the emotion coming from the person playing. And that would be the same thing with acting. In the movie, there's a great part where the young piano player is doing this concert, and he's playing, and you kind of, the way they filmed it, they film it in a way that he sort of detaches from his hands and his fingers are just kind of doing their thing. And he's not even thinking about it. He's just committing to emotion and being vulnerable in the piece. And that's the same thing with acting. We can't be thinking about the words. We can't be thinking about making sure we have emotion in a scene. You're doing that, again, you're going back into the preparation phase. So anyway, I hope today's lesson was a good one for you. It's just kind of a reminder of how important emotion is, and also that sometimes, as much as the book is called Acting Without Agony, there can be a little bit of pain when we're building a scene. It can be a little bit exhausting. Look at it this way. When you do the breathing exercise, maybe you don't have to go to the gym that day. You're burning a few extra calories. Anyway, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed our lesson. And also, if you have not done so, make sure you click subscribe to our channels, and also hit the bell for video notifications so you'll be alerted when new videos are posted. Thank you for watching the Heller Approach Acting Studio. Hope you enjoy the lesson, and keep training and working hard, and we'll see you next time.